Welcome back everyone to the Blender Creator course, Stylized 3D Models, and this is where we left it off, absolutely nowhere, because we've just worked out how to move around Blender. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually open up the download pack. So with the course, you'll see that there's a download pack if I drag this over here, and when you open it up, it's going to look something like this. Now at the moment, this is in kind of object mode, so you can't really see anything. But if we come up to the top right hand side here and click this little button, if you hover over it, it says viewport shading. And what this is going to be is just going to be the actual textures and things like that these actually have on them. Now yours will probably say loading up shaders over here on the left hand side. Don't worry about that, just let them load up. Now with this course, I'm going to give you a short overview of how we actually created these textures. I'm basically just going to tell you how we created them so you can actually go out and actually create your own textures once you've done your own research. The other thing is in here, you will see that we have some plants. We have not only plants, we also have some geometry nodes as well. What we're going to do is we're going to be using these and the asset manager to bring them into our main actual blend file where we're going to actually create the model. And this way of working really will speed up your workflow, and what you can have then is many blend files with lots of different textures or geometry nodes, and it's going to really help you. This is also going to speed up the course content because everything is already pre-built, but don't be afraid. We're actually going to go in and see how these textures are put together and also show you how to bring in your own textures, either because you can't actually open this because the file's too big or something like that, or you want to actually be able to do this in the end long term and create your own models. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through this a little bit more once we've actually gone through how to create some concept art ready to actually create our model. So to sum up, basically what I'm trying to say is this is going to be some course. So if you're new to Blender or new to 3D modeling in general, get yourself strapped in and with a notepad and pen, as this will be a massive information download. So getting started, the first thing I think you should do is go and get something called PureRev, and this basically is a place where you can put all of your images to actually design your concept around the building you're actually building. Then what I would say do is go and get something like Bing or DALL-E, or some of you out there might have Midjourney. And this is something that we use heavily to create our concepts for our buildings. We also use Google still, and we use Pinterest as well. But you know how to use Pinterest, I'm sure, and I'm sure you know how to use Google. So the main focus of this part of the course is how to use one of the AI softwares to get the images out where you can actually create buildings from. So I'm going to pull over now my actual Discord, which is Midjourney, and on here you can see that I have typed in here stylized 3D model building of a wizard's tower. Now I know we're not building a wizard's tower, but this is to give you an idea if you were to do something like that of what you want to actually put in. And then you can see that what came out was these 4 images here. Now what I tend to do is I will tend to either change the prompt to get something a little bit close to what I want, but in general this actually came out with a really nice image of this one that I actually liked. So from there what I did was I actually generated a higher version of it, so I upscaled this version and I ended up with this. And then from there what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, so I'm going to take this image, open it in the browser, copy the actual HTTPS, and then put that back in, followed by stylized 3D model, building a wizard's tower. And what it did was then it generated these 4 images based on that original image. Now from there, I can actually generate more and more images. So what I did was I just actually typed out, generate more of these images. And in Midjourney, you can actually put repeat 5 or something like that, and then it'll just repeat this amount. So what I did was, as you can see, I've generated 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 images, and then it upscaled every single one of those, and he ended up with all of these images, which is really great because then when you're building out a gray box, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, you can actually have loads and loads of images to actually work with. Now, I'm just showing you the basics of this, so it's important not to just get images of the building. You also want to get images of lighting, and you want images of things like doors or things like windows. And Midjourney, although it does a good job at the overall concept, sometimes you can see if I click on this one, for instance, it is lacking with little bits stuck out and things like that. So of course you don't want to actually copy this directly. And what that means is the more actual images you have to work with, then the better your actual gray box is going to come out, and the better the overall image is going to come out. The one good thing though that Midjourney is very good at, as I'm sure the other things like Bing is actually amazing composition. You'll notice how the lighting is pretty good on here. The background really suits the image, and the overall aesthetic of the image you can see has really high good composition from an artistic point of view. All right, so now enough of that. Let's actually open PureRev and show you. So if I come to this image, right click, I'm going to copy image, and then I'm going to go back to my PureRev. I'm going to right click, I'm going to come down to paste in image, and let's paste that in, and there we go, we have one image. Now what I tend to do is I'll tend to grab a load of these images and put them in. So if I come to the next one, for instance, let's go down to the next one, we'll copy an image, we'll go back to PureRev, I'm going to put it in, so paste in image. You can also press Ctrl C, Ctrl V. What I mainly tend to do though for this is I will come to the main image. So for instance, if I go to my main image, which is a little bit up here, so this one here is my favorite. This is what all of the other images were based off. So I'm going to copy image, I'm going to paste it in, so paste in image, like so. And then what I tend to do is I tend to open this one up a little bit. So in other words, make it a little bit bigger, like so. And now what I do is when I am going to build my grey boxes, this is my main image, but I've also got 20 other images to actually look at to decide how I'm going to create this. From there then, what you want to do is you want to work on the smaller parts of the actual building. So this is where you can use things like Pinterest and Google, and you want to be putting in stylized windows, for instance. And you want to get, 10, 20 different stylized windows, and from there you're going to use them to, build out your actual building and make it look really, really nice. Then what I would do is I would also do the same thing for doors. I would do that for maybe flags, maybe some wood. And this is the way then that we can get a whole reference of what we're actually doing. The next thing I would do is I would also look at stylized building lighting. So for instance, if we go to Pinterest and we put in something like 3D building, we can see here that we have a load of references. And what we're looking for here is lighting. We're not too concerned with what the building looks like. It doesn't matter if it's a low poly or a building that's not very good. Like for here, you can see the lighting isn't very good, for instance. It's just basic sunlight on here, and this is not something we're actually looking for. What we're looking for is the more interesting lighting. So some of the more interesting lighting is like this. And you can see here that the lighting and how it's lit looks really, really nice, even though this is really low poly. So I would get probably another 10 images of lighting. You can see that this one is also lit very nicely. So we get some ideas of how things are glinting off metal and things like that. Next of all, I would actually look at as well, while I'm actually got this open, I would also be looking at backgrounds. So you can see a lot of these have very rudimentary backgrounds where it's just black. You can see here though, this one has spent a lot of work on creating the backgrounds. You've got all of this beautiful lighting on here. It goes really, really nice together. All of this has probably been put in after, over the top of it and things like that. That is something that you want to really look into if you're thinking of using this as a portfolio piece. So just make sure that you've got lighting, doors and windows and barrels and little assets like that. And then finally, for the whole composition, you want to look at backgrounds, whether it's raining, whether there's some lightning. And so from all of these things, you can pull together an amazing looking building or character. And I'm hoping that this part of the course actually gave you a real insight into how we actually create models. Now, the next thing, of course, is textures. And the way that we create textures here is we will either create them from scratch in Photoshop, or we will use Midjourney again. So I'll quickly show you that as well. So here we are again, back in Midjourney. Again, you could use something like Bing or DALL-E. And what you want to do is you want to generate stylized stone walls, simplistic. And then what we're going to do from this is we're actually going to make it tileable. In other words, seamless. And then finally what we do is we take it into a program like Substance Painter. And from there we can generate maps. We can generate roughness maps. We can generate curvature maps, normal maps, and really then bring this to life. And this is how the basics, the very basics of how we create textures for our courses. Some of the time we will create them from scratch. So we will actually go in and we'll create a wall in actual Photoshop. But generally what we tend to do nowadays, we base it on something out of Midjourney or Pinterest to get some references, and then we'll actually create the textures from there. This means as well that we can really nail down the idea of what we're trying to create. So for the stylized building that we've just created, we had a real set idea of how we wanted it to look, and we were able to generate pretty much exactly that from using these techniques. All right, everyone, so I hope you enjoyed that part of the course. I hope you found it really informative. And now on the next part of the course, what we'll do is we'll go into the download pack and we'll have a quick look around of what we've actually got in that download pack, because it really is going to make your life much, much easier. All right, everyone, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.